Hey Tackle Warehouse fans, Mike Iaconelli, and I've got in my hand a brand new bait from Berkley called the Nessie. Talking about game changers, this is the first soft glide bait, and it's gonna catch big bass. Come check this thing out, look at the action, look at the way it moves. This is gonna be the ultimate swim bait. Let me tell you a little bit more about the Nessie. This bait is what I call a hybrid bait. It's a soft swim bait style lure, but it glides in the water just like a hard glide bait. This thing's loaded with features to make this one of the most unique swim baits on the market. You know, let's just start in the back. This bait is designed with a paintbrush tail. And for all the hardcore swim bait guys, you know the importance of this swim bait style tail. Not only in profile, right, to mimic the forage, gizzard shad, herring, alewife, all those forage species that have that distinct V-shaped tail, but also in texture and that bristle feeling, that hard bristle feeling that is so real. And Berkley with this Nessie has figured out a way to integrate that paintbrush tail into a soft bait. All right, you heard me mention it. This is not a regular inline swim bait. This is a glide bait. This is a bait that's going to maintain S's tight and wide, depending on the way you fish it. And it does that through some unique designs in the body. The first and most important thing is that joint. A single joint bait with a broader backside than a front side. So when water hits that second joint, it activates the back of the bait. And you have to have a way to connect them. Berkley's figured out a mesh that keeps these two joints together, keeps the bait fluid, and keeps the bait from ripping on the hook set. So that joint and that mesh is what's going to give this Nessie its fluidity. The next thing in glide bait fishing is stability. We can't have a bait that spins or spirals or lifts out of control. And the way Berkley did that is hard fins that are built in to the soft plastic bait. So those fins are going to give the Nessie its buoyancy and its horizontal glide, and it's going to make it look natural. Remember, it's all about matching the hatch, being natural. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the hook harness, and this thing is unbelievable. If you're a fan of swim baiting, especially soft swim baits, you know that the hooks, the hookup percentage sometimes can be an issue. Berkley with this Nessie has cured that with an internal hook harness utilizing a special patented keeper. We call it the keeper clip right in the belly. And if you look at that, we have a harness design system, runs through the body. This is quality hardware, super sharp hook. And that inline hardware is free floating. But when we're fishing this thing, we want to keep that hook in the body of the bait. And with this patented clip, we're just going to bury the hook in the body. It's got a slot that it falls into, and the hook clips in, keeping that hook in place. So think about the benefits of that, right? Versus a free swinging hook. We're going to be able to skip it under docks. We're going to be able to roll it under underhangs. We're going to be able to make bomb cast, and that hook is always in the correct position. The great thing about that clip, when that fish bites and you're fighting them, the bait pulls away, you lose that ability for the fish to get leverage and throw the bait, and you land that fish. Next thing you're going to notice on these Nessie baits, this incredible paint finish. And these are hand-painted baits that are designed to mimic the prevalent forage. So we've got great colors, hand-painted colors to mimic things like herring, gizzard shad, alewife, threadfin. And we've also got some great colors that are standard colors, including raw colors to really stand out in more stained water. It's got an integrated line tie. We have oversized eyes, and to match the hatch and dial it into your prevalent forage, 3 unique sizes, from the 9-inch to the 7-inch, all the way down to the 5-inch. Before I go, I want to tell you a little bit more about the softness of this bait and the scent of this bait. You know, a traditional hard glide bait is very rigid. When it moves through the water and glides and turns, it really almost sounds mechanical, right? You get this hard mechanical sound. But because this is a soft bait, it glides through the water and sneaks up on the fish. Just like real forage, right? A gizzard shad or an alewife or herring, they don't sound mechanical. They don't clack and crunch, right? They sneak up through the water. That's exactly what this bait is going to do. The other benefit of this glide bait, the Nessie, being soft, is that when that fish grabs it, it compresses in the fish's mouth. It feels real. Natural forage is soft. It's not hard and rigid. It feels real, and the fish don't let it go. They hold on to it. Speaking of holding on, it's a Berkley bait, it's a power bait, and that means it's got that built-in scent. And I love that with a swim bait. If you're a fan of swim baiting and glide baiting, you know you have followers, fish that will follow the bait, approach the bait, and that scent is an extra trigger to make those fish bite. And once they get it, again, soft, compresses, they'll taste that power bait scent, they don't want to let it go. Some amazing features. It's really going to change the game in swim baiting. It's going to change the game in glide baiting. Last but not least, I want to talk to you about the price point. If you know about swim baits and glide baits, you know these things. Regular hard swim baits can cost in excess of $100, $150, $200, $300. All these baits are less than $20 price point. It's pretty unbelievable. All right, now you've heard a little bit about this brand new Nessie by Berkley. Wind's picking up a little bit. Let's get out in the water, and I'm going to show you some of the techniques you can use to make this thing look like a real bait fish. All right, Tackle Warehouse fans, I want to talk to you a little bit about the 4 ways to retrieve this brand new Berkley Powerbait Nessie. It's a great thing about this soft glide is that by changing the retrieve, by changing what we do with our rod and reel, we can get this bait to do like 4 different things. So I want to talk to you about these different retrieves. The first one I'm going to do is the easiest, and you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have fish glide baits your whole life. It's just a straight retrieve. And we're going to utilize our reel, and we're going to make this bait swim a lot like a natural bait fish. I'm going to do it 3 ways. I'm going to reel really slow, I'm going to reel medium, and I'm going to reel fast. And by doing those 3 different retrieves, I could get that bait to sit a little bit different in the water column. So we're going to start this thing off with a really long cast. I want to get that bait out there. But on this straight retrieve, the bait is going to do everything itself. And all I'm going to do is reel that thing in. So as I'm retrieving and that water catches that back section, it activates. Medium retrieve gets that thing a few feet down in the water column, and it just has a very natural swimming motion, a little bit tighter S motion. Same kind of retrieve, I can make that long cast, and this time I can retrieve that bait really slow. And now I'm getting it down further in the water column. Remember, this Nessie, it's a slow sink bait. So now I'm getting this bait 3, 4, 5, 6 feet down, and it has that same rhythmic S motion. But nothing with my rod, nothing with my body, just using the reel, using that joint to activate the bait. Now here's the best one of them all on this first retrieve, which is the steady retrieve, just using our reel, and that is burning this bait back, just fast reeling this bait back. Because of that single joint, because of these stability fins, even on a fast burning retrieve, this bait's gonna just stay in line. It's gonna make that tight S motion. So long cast, hits the water, fast retrieve, that thing's S-ing back the whole way. It's unbelievable. I can use my rod tip to keep it high, S just under the surface, put my rod tip low, just reel, and it'll track true, even on an ultra fast retrieve. So retrieve number 1 with this brand new Berkley Powerbait Nessie, just a straight steady retrieve using your reel, right? Steady reel. All right, the next one, and this is one I love, this is one I utilize a lot, is the twitching retrieve. And on this retrieve, we're going to utilize our rod tip and the reel to make this bait twitch back and forth and have a wider and more steady S pattern, okay? So long cast, the bait's gonna hit the water. And once the bait hits the water, I wanna get into a rhythm or a cadence using my rod and my reel. And it just goes something like this. Twitch, 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 twitch. And if you look, I'm using my rod to pull it forward, the reel to pick up my slack, right? So twitch, 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 twitch. I throw a little pause in, twitch, 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 twitch. And when we do that twitching retrieve, we've changed that movement to now a wider S. And it's just every time you twitch it, it goes left, right, just like a lazy, wandering shad swimming. Here's the great thing about this twitching retrieve, rod positioning. Keeping my rod tip really high, twitch, 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 it becomes just a subsurface bait. I can get this thing to actually S and glide just under the water like a wake bait. Doing the same thing with my rod tip down, twitch, twitch, reel, twitch, reel, twitch. It'll get it down 2 or 3 feet for a more subsurface presentation. So twitching retrieve, number 2, I love that one. Number 3, when bass track it, when a fish tracks it, we want this bait to sometimes actually turn and look at the fish to 180. Or we want to get this bait to literally make a full 360 movement and come back center. And when that Nessie turns back and looks at that fish, it has to eat it. This is a trigger retrieve. Going to get a lot of bites with this Nessie by making that bait look at the fish. So with this one, we're going to utilize the steady retrieve or the twitching retrieve. And as that bait's coming through, we want to give it a hard twitch and then throw slack into the line. That's all it is, okay? So steady retrieve, hard twitch, and I'm throwing slack into the line. And when I'm throwing slack into the line, it's very important to keep a slight bow in the line, right? I'm not throwing slack into the line and then, you know, pulling it out of the reel, answering my phone. No, I'm throwing slack into the line and keeping a slight bow. So I'm watching the line. And when I do that, this bait is actually going to turn 180, or if I twitch it really hard and throw more slack, it'll 360. And that's a killer movement. All right, last but not least, and this is one when the fishing gets really tough. If you're fishing ultra clear water, fishing pressure's heavy, and this is called the dead stick retrieve. Because of the design of this bait, because of those hard fins, the buoyancy, this thing is weighted perfect, we're gonna get this bait to make subtle little movements by almost doing nothing with our rod or reel at all. I'm literally gonna almost not move it and then just give it a little tiny micro twitch or pull. And that bait's gonna move on its own. And so I'm not moving it, I'm almost just leaving it sit. I give it a little micro twitch, I give it just a little pull, and it just glides and fades off. And as it fades off, it moves itself. Because remember, look at the way this bait is built. Even when I pull it and I stop moving it, as that bait sinks, it's once defined center, right? And it's just barely S-ing all by itself. And that movement of a dying bait fish, of an injured bait fish, is so critical when the fishing's tough. So we're gonna throw it out there, especially in the zone where we know those fish are. We're barely gonna move our rod. We're gonna give it a micro twitch, or we're gonna give it just a small pull and let it sit. Let that bait activate all by itself. Man, what a great bait. 1 bait, 4 retrieves, and we can really make this thing look alive. You know, the key to the Nessie, the key to all swim baits and glide baits is to match the hatch, to make it look alive, and it's easy to do it with the Powerbait Nessie. All right, you know, the great thing about the new Powerbait Nessie is that it's a really versatile bait. In fact, you can fish this thing all 4 seasons. In the winter, I tend to fish it on more vertical type banks, steeper banks, bluffs, channel swings, main lake points, and the colder the water, the more I use that slow dead stick technique. Springtime, without a doubt, my favorite time to fish the Nessie, and I'm really targeting flats. One of the great things that happens in the spring is the forage moves back shallow, so do the bass, and they're eating herring and gizzard shad and stuff like that. So in the spring, I really love that twitching technique where I'm twitching it, pausing it, twitching it, pausing it, and it's a big meal, and that's what they want that time of the year. Summertime, man, I love the summertime, and I'm fishing this thing in 3 zones. I'm fishing it deeper, main lake areas, deeper water. I'm fishing it thicker, on the edge of really thick matted cover, and I'm fishing it in current. I love this bait in current, anywhere there's water moving in the summer. Favorite retrieve in the summer? It's that burning technique, right? And we talked about just reeling it, letting the bait do its own thing. And because of those hard fins, I can burn this bait and it still has great action, right? Stability fins, has great action. Last but not least, the fall. And the fall to me is the second favorite time to fish this style bait. And just like the spring, I like fishing it on flats. Steady retrieve, stutter stopping, 360 on the pause is a great way to fish it. So all 4 seasons, it's a great bait. It's also great in all 3 water clarities. Crystal clear water, this fish has drawing power. Look at it. It looks real, that paint job, that shape, the color, and then the movement, right? So crystal clear water, it's perfect. Clear water, the faster the retrieve. Stained water, it's a great presentation, right? Stained water has a limited visibility. Fish can still find it. I love to slow my retrieve down as that water clarity gets dirtier. Last but not least, dirty, muddy, stained water. It's my least favorite time to fish the Nessie, but it still works. The only thing I do, I alter my color presentations. I go to those raw colors or bright colors, and it still draws the fish in. All right, I want to talk to you a little bit about the gear that I'm going to use. And in general, the 9 and the 7, these bigger swim baits, I'm going to throw it on the same kind of rod you're already throwing your swim baits. My preference is a 7.3 to 7.6 medium heavy casting rod. This one I'm using today is pretty awesome. And this is the brand new Abu Garcia. This is the Realistc PLX Tournament Edition rod. It's got that Power Lux in it. And this is the 7.3 medium heavy. Been casting this thing like a champ, fights the fish great. On the reel, I want a decent gear ratio, but not too slow and not too fast. I want a retrieve that's anywhere from 7 to 1 to 8 to 1s. I want medium fast retrieve reel. Abu Garcia low profile reels are great. This is that Revo XLS. It's a 10 ball bearing reel. And this is the 8 1-to-1 gear ratio. Great reel for that. Last but not least, I like that heavier line size and I prefer straight fluorocarbon. The deal with fluorocarbon is it's going to let this bait sink down a little bit and it's going to give it that maximum action, right? This bait's all about that S movement, and fluorocarbon allows that bait to get a lot of wag to it, a lot of side to side movement. So on these bigger baits, I really like 15 to 20 pound Berkley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon. All right, now let's get into the 5-inch Nessie. For this one, we've got to downsize our tackle just a little bit. A smaller casting rod or a spinning rod is a great choice as well. On the casting side, a 7-foot medium heavy casting rod is a great rod. Same reel, same line, but you need a little smaller, lighter rod to get that bait out there. But my preference for this thing, especially when I'm skipping this bait, is a spinning rod. It casts this thing a mile. You can really do that underhand skipping technique. And on length, that same length that we talked about, a 7 to 7.5 foot spinning rod is perfect. Today we're using this Realistc PLX. This is the tournament edition. It's the 7.6 medium, and it was skipping this thing around like crazy. Same thing with reel. You know, I want a reel that's not too fast, but not too slow. We tried this brand new Abu Garcia Revo Rocket, and it was perfect because it had a little bit quicker gear ratio than a normal spinning reel. It allowed me to pick up the slack, especially when those fish hit it and come at you. So that smaller 5-inch, lighter casting rod, or a spinning rod, especially if you're skipping it. Pick the right tackle, and it's the perfect complement for these brand new Powerbait Nessies. All right, Tackle Warehouse fans, I hope you learned a little bit today. This is the brand new Berkley Powerbait Nessie, and glide bait fishing is really blowing up. It's becoming more popular every day. And this is the only soft glide bait. Give it a try, available on Tackle Warehouse right now. I'm gonna keep slinging this thing.